Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Things to be seen podcast. Matt Klaus
Tara Caustic, Elvis.
might have more to say today.
He's kind of grumpy.
He's very grumpy. We just got out of biography. I Want My Mtv documentary about the beginnings of MTV and what it came to be, what we know of it now.
We almost didn't get in because I guess everyone started lining up exactly 30 minutes before, and we showed up 10 minutes before, and there were already over 70 people in this small little room, but they were still finding chairs for the rest of us.
Finding a way to pack people in there.
There were technical difficulties throughout as well, but
there was a couple technical difficulties.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun.
It was awesome. The crowd was awesome. Like everybody in there was very reactive to the movie. There's one part in particular that hit me. Like I got really emotional about. It involved David Bowie, and
so the documentary is called I Want My MTV, and it chronicles the early days of MTV and the music video format, which many believe technically started with the Beatles and the Monkees. And then Michael Nesmith from the Monkees was in this a lot because he directed a music video for his own song called Rio in, I believe, 1975, and that's kind of where it started taking off.
Music video shows existed, but only on public access. They were looked at as a niche market. They were put on really late at night. The first video show that they tried to make, actually like syndicated show, was called Pop Clips, and they thought that that's what music videos were going to be called previous to what we know them now.
Pop Clips initially really started on Nickelodeon, and it started taking off because that's what the kids wanted to see. There wasn't really a lot of television for the youth. There was, with cable, there was mostly like CNN and adult programming.
And for anyone who watched the Emmys recently, it was produced by Norman Lear, which he was on the Emmys, I think 2 or 3 times this past week. They made a big deal out of him once.
It really, they interview many of MTV's very first employees, the people that founded it, their original designers. They only interviewed 2 of the original VJs, though. Only Mark Goodman and Alan Hunter were there. But yeah, it discussed the early formats, how a lot of the artists were really cranking out quick videos. I think REO Speedwagon made 4 videos in one day.
4 in a week, I think.
In a week?
Yeah.
Okay.
But still, it's because the reason nobody thought it would work is because there weren't enough videos. So the ones that we know of that, oh my God, they showed that video all the time, is because there weren't really a lot.
I think when they launched, there were only 120 videos.
The one guy, Les, the guy who we know as the quote unquote godfather of MTV, said the number 250, and then the artistic creator lady who originally did all the original artwork for the MTV that we know of as the original MTV said that is a lie, and there was really probably only about 120, and that's why they showed so much Rod Stewart early, is because Rod Stewart had no problem making videos, which they do a really cool job of.
It was kind of seen as the second British invasion, because a lot of the British artists were used to combining that video format with music, so they were very comfortable being in front of the camera, and that's why initially there were a lot of British artists on MTV.
Which is where Billy Idol was crucial in this, because he talked about, they interviewed Billy Idol a lot, because he had no problem just being creative and taking a song and giving it a visual platform.
A lot of the American labels just didn't want to invest in music videos. They didn't think it would last very long.
Honestly, part of the problem was all the money people at the time were old stuffy white guys who hated their kids, and that's like that's a thing that they talk about. Is they even showed this interview from the time where it was a cable programmer or something, and he said, "Oh, I was just happy when all my kids moved out because I didn't ever have to listen to rock music again." So when they tried to sell the MTV idea to Warner, they had to show them like the Xanadu video. Like, oh yeah, this is what we're talking about. But they wanted to do all like rock and roll music at the time.
Yeah, initially it was seen as rock TV, even though they had artists like Cyndi Lauper and Hall & Oates, and they do go into a bit of hot topics with the racism and stuff, because it's like, why can't you play a video by, say, Patti LaBelle, but then you're playing Hall & Oates, who are doing that same exact soulful sound. And then they do go into the famous David Bowie interview, and
I cried.
How embarrassing that was for Mark Goldman. It was a really crushing moment for him, and that he regrets.
He asks he did say that he has very little regrets from anything he ever did on MTV, but that interview with David Bowie, he said, still haunts him because David Bowie called him out in no uncertain terms of, oh, so you can play this, but you can't play that. Oh, so you are just doing it for the white kids. And Mark Goodman's trying to explain, and he's like, you heard what you just said, right?
Yeah, and it was, I don't know, it was such a cool moment because David Bowie wasn't really saying a lot. It was his face, or like Mark Goodman would say something, and David Bowie would be like, interesting.
Yeah, there's a very crucial part of that interview where Mark Goodman says something and David Bowie just goes, like, you know what you just said. And I was actually gripping her hand.
And then there were a few interviews by Rick James calling out the network, and then initially the executives wanted Michael Jackson to make a video for Beat It because it had a solo by Eddie Van Halen, and instead they surprised them with a video for Billie Jean instead.
They sent them the video labeled Beat It.
Yeah.
And when they put it on the air, it was Billie Jean, and if they did play it, they were going to get in hot water with the programmers, and if they didn't play it, they were going to get in hot water for continuing this narrative that there was a racist ideology at the company. And I thought that was a great story.
Yeah. And
because Billie Jean is so iconic as a music video now.
And then Michael Jackson, especially with the Thriller video, changed the format of the music video because now people were wanting to put money into it and make more creative videos, whereas before, like, I liked a lot of those music videos but you could tell it was people that coming out of the 70s were known for being seen in concert, and people maybe didn't really know what they looked like, and they didn't know how to really act in front of a camera.
The lead singer of REO Speedwagon illustrated that perfectly, where he said that videos at that point were either making or breaking artists, and if you didn't want to break your career, you would just not put videos out for what you did. And they talked about the
Billy Squier video, because Billy Squier was huge.
He was
a huge star, and then that video was Rock Me Tonight, and he disappeared after that. It was
a Saturday Night Live sketch.
Was it?
No, I'm saying that video might as well have been.
It literally was.
Right.
So yeah, they do get some surprising people. They interviewed a member of AHA because the Take on Me video was
so amazing. It's still amazing.
Yeah, very
you can
innovative.
watch it now and it still looks good.
Oh yeah. They do go into the hair metal videos and how the videos started becoming demoralizing because now the record labels were putting money into the videos, like with movie set budgets and stuff, and they all started looking the same and following this format. So they do talk to Nancy Wilson from Heart because it was known that Ann Wilson in the 80s was a little bit on the heavier side, and so they would do close-ups of her,
just
and
Nancy.
then no,
Nancy. You're right.
They wanted her like parading herself like full body because that sexy image was becoming the thing.
They didn't explicitly say it, and I'm not.
That's just something that I know of,
right.
Like from all the years of watching like pop-up video and stuff.
Just like on the subject we were just talking about, they didn't come out and explicitly say it. So all my 80s hair metal friends, don't get mad at me. But 80s hair metal kind of killed what we know of as MTV of what it was, because it fell into this formula, and even the executives they didn't want to do that anymore. They said that it became this creative lull, and eventually Time Warner hit a hard spot and they sold MTV.
Because what you started getting were bands that were maybe made for MTV. They didn't necessarily have the talent, but if they had the image that fit, then they were perfect for what was in style at the time. And then they do go back into hip hop. Really,
they talk about Yo MTV Raps for a minute.
Yeah,
I was really excited about that. The reason I knew about the David Bowie interview is because I have an aunt who lives and dies by David Bowie, and it's amazing, and he's an idol to her. And then I remember when I was young watching when they tried to revamp Yo MTV Raps, and when I was really, really young, I mean 5, 6, watching the restart of Yo MTV Raps with my uncle, who would be her brother. So her and I were right on that line where we saw MTV at its zenith, and then we also saw everything after that. We saw after the sale to Viacom, and they said it all started with The Real World. Viacom wanted to start doing shows that focused more on the audience and not so much on the music, and that's where we saw that swing into what we know MTV as now.
And back to the hip hop thing as well. The first 3 hip hop videos played were Run DMC because they had those rock samples in their music.
Right.
So there's just all these things you never really thought about before. And then, essentially the company was split into, and they were bought out, and many of the original employees and founders left.
Didn't want anything
to do with it, because MTV was becoming more of a business, and corporate. They cared more about the ratings.
When they're talking about the culture of MTV in the beginning, it's referred to as a crusade. It's referred to as a college dorm room.
Pop culture. It changed the access of television for young people. It allowed them to become more involved, because at first MTV was kind of starting to decline, and they decided to go to the audience. Like, what does the audience want? So they went to Mick Jagger and Pete Townsend, and they paid Mick Jagger a dollar to say, "I want my MTV." So they had all these artists making little commercials like, "Okay, people, go to your cable providers and tell them you want your MTV." And within a week,
they had
everything started to change.
They said within a week they had 500,000 additionals in, I think they said 250 new markets. So it was just like within a week of that, I want my MTV, it exploded.
It really started proving that, the youth has a voice of its own and they can make a difference.
Which we're kind of seeing again.
Yeah, and so starting in the 90s, they started doing more blocks of TV, not just the 24-hour music video format, and they didn't really touch on what it is today. No, it was more glorifying.
And I'm glad
the
they didn't.
Years. Yeah,
I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad that it really gave us an inside look into how it came to be,
and seeing all the people that started it, because it was more than just the music videos. It was all these people that had a passion.
They talked to an artist, and I forget his name, but they talked to an artist in the very beginning. It's like one of the very first interviews you see on it. Mm-hmm. And he says, I truthfully believe that nobody who started MTV did it to get rich.
It was Jack Antonoff.
Why is he so familiar?
Isn't he from that band Fun?
Is he from Fun?
I think so. And are they from Michigan?
If you know who Jack Antonoff is.
I don't know.
Comment.
I just know he produces a lot for artists now, too.
Well, he's obviously a producer because they're interviewing him behind a sound booth. And he looks super comfortable. Mm-hmm. Like, that's his chair. Mm-hmm. We 100%, 100,000% recommend, if you get a chance to see this. It's called Biography, I Want My MTV. If you get a chance to see this, see it.
So we had talked in a previous video how excited we were and how excited you knew I would be because of who they interviewed. And I was especially excited because I used to love MTV. I remember what it meant to me. And actually, one of my very first memories is watching that one music video by The Police, Wrapped Around Your Finger. One of my earliest memories is just seeing Sting in sunglasses in slow motion dancing around candlesticks. And I just remember it always being on TV, and it's a shame to see what it is now, but
they actually even point out, they talk to everybody they interview, and they say, what's the first video you remember? Mm-hmm. And you see all these people giving the first, somebody says Tainted Love, and somebody says Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Everybody has that one music video that they remember as that first, wow. I recently told you what mine was, and I'm not going to say it on the video because on the channel because it's super embarrassing. But
I don't know if I remember.
You do. We're just not going to talk about it right now.
Is it Chris Isaac?
No. I do love that video.
They do show that video in this movie.
But for a reason. Like, they're making a point with it. No, the first video I remember, and we actually had a whole day of making a joke about this, is Nelson, Love and Affection.
And they were recently here in Bay City.
And we missed it. But that's actually the first music video I remember seeing, is Nelson's I Can't Live Without Your Love and Affection. Which sounds ridiculous coming from me, but ask my mom, she'll tell you stories. That we were just so excited about seeing this. We were like, we're doing a video when we get home.
Yeah, and then we were like, yeah.
He's not feeling
mad
it.
That he didn't get to see it. We were like, oh, let's go to Starbucks before. It's the first showing today. It's at 11 a.m. How many people are going to show up for this documentary about MTV?
We got all the way to the door, and the lady was like, stop.
Yeah.
They tried to like kind of.
I was like, no, because this is the one that I wanted to see the most.
This was the one I wanted to see the most was Gutterbug, but her and I were both on the level of we have to see this movie. Mm-hmm.
I know.
Sorry, bud.
We'll watch it when it comes to DVD.
I know. But that we just wanted to let you all in on that. We're super excited about this one. Mm-hmm. Thank you. We're going to make another video later.
We still have 2 more movies to go see today. 2 more today.
And a special thing that we're going to be doing. We're doing it at about 3. Mm-hmm. Video might not be up until a little later, but it's super cool. I'm really excited. So, stay tuned. Adopt, don't shop.
Think. Oh.